So we'll see how this goes, but when you already mentioned on Tuesdays, we won't go to YouTube anymore, but you can go ahead and try it for today. Okay, I sent it. We'll see how this goes. Is Venerable here? Okay, when you see Venerable and people, okay. If not, okay, I sent it. So, Sister, are you fixing that? So you see she's playing it here on the YouTube, which has a delay. So it's picking up and Where's your YouTube? Thanks. No issue with the software. Our issue.
Something that's new switcher connected, ATEM software. It's in the middle of the screen, and it's black. On which computer? Yes, the last
It's right here. Everything's here.
We have, can I talk?
Yeah, I still put thumbs up.
Can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. Judith, can you hear me? Judith Norris?
Judith.
She's our test. So, you know, I glanced over here and the room was dark. Glance at the other Dharma hall, no shoes outside. I said, Funny Diva, I don't know where they are. But we have a new setup going on here. This is wonderful. We're still working through it, trying to fix everything so everybody can hear. So this is great. Welcome, friends. We're doing something different on. We're doing something different on Tuesdays and a little bit different on Thursdays as well. I'm trying to combine these together and to have some place for our Sunday Dharma talk to land in our lives as we're actually living them and walking them out. So last week, we had an assignment, and I will break earlier for the breakout rooms, because what happens in the breakout rooms is that's when people slip away. Now I have to say that I myself don't feel that comfortable when I'm with a new group and we're doing a breakout. It's like, I don't want to do that. I just wanted to get the information or whatever. So I get you 100%. But the purpose of this is so that the Sangha can harmonize, can congeal, can come together, so that there's an expression, so that we can put what we think into expression, and we can take our expressions and walk them out. And so I'd like to ask you to stay until the end. We will have the breakouts and we'll come back together. The way this will work is we will review last week's, and that's in an open forum, to give you time to share individually how you've put the previous week's practice or training into practice, how you've walked out the practice, I'll put it that way, because we're getting away from the word practice, and this becomes not only the way we live, but becomes who we are. And so last week, we broke out and discussed what this could mean, doing it this way based on what the Buddha said in his conversation with the Kamalas. And he said, when you undertake an action or response, does it lead to the welfare, to your welfare or happiness? Does it lead to the welfare and happiness of the other? Does it lead to the welfare and happiness of both? How do you see it? It says, he says, and that is your litmus test right there. He said, so that's why I say, don't go by oral tradition, don't go by lineage, don't go by testament, don't go by canonical authority, don't rely on logic, don't rely on inference, don't go by reasoned contemplation, and don't think this ascetic is our respected teacher. Now that's just about every way I can think of that we use to evaluate anything. You know, we either think about it, we contemplate it, we follow the advice of the teacher, we look at our sacred scriptures and see what they say. I mean, we reason it through, like what's going to happen if I do this action or don't. We might come to the wrong conclusion, but that's what we're doing. And he's saying, I say to you, don't use any of them. So then what should we go by? He said that we have to actually apply something, and then we evaluate the result of it. We don't just think through a scenario or how do I feel about it. Always sometimes I feel that, well, I feel this way, I feel that way, I think this, I think that. Those are two, what kind of words do you call them? Thinking and feeling. Action verbs, what are they? I've been out of school a long time. But we go by thinking or by feeling. That's it. Thinking or by feeling. Okay, but he's telling us another way that we can live in this life, that our fruits will reflect our true intention, and it will I'll take away the mystery of who we are. I know a baker because he bakes. Not because he says he's a baker, not because he got a certificate on the wall, but when I taste what he's baked and it is good without it, that's a baker. And so he says that this is in the same vein. He says that when we have tried it, put it into action, and know for ourselves that this leads to my harm or to the other's harm, or to my sorrow or the other's sorrow, or to my release and the other's release. He said that you count on. And so there's a whole lot of putting into action we have to do. I was listening to the news and the different speeches that are being given right now, because we're talking about harmony and coming together and healing and all that's good and wonderful. But I kept hearing, oh, this is not who we are. This is not America. This is not who we are. We are what we do and how we do. We are what we think and how we think. We are what we say and how we say it. So when Panyadeep and I would be particularly at the Indian, Chinese monasteries, we had one master, and she would just walk by you, you know, and she'd just say, "Who are you?" I mean, like, well, at that time my name was Trinkun. I say Trinkun, you know, or she just do like an and walk on away. She come back later and she said, "You are who?" And I'd say, you know, I kept trying to think of what does she want to hear. I want to tell her what she wants to hear. I want to say the right thing, you know, and I never ever I gave her an acceptable answer. I had no clue of what she was talking about at that time, but I do have some clue now. So the less I think of myself as Panyawadi, and the more I think of this as, you know, arising and falling responses to situations, you know, because I'm thinking in one particular way in this moment. But 5 minutes from now, I may not think that way. I feel this way in the moment, but 2 minutes from now, I might not feel this way. So there's this shifting, changing something that you can't put your thumb on and say, I am that. And so the more we step away from a hard and fast, concretized identity that says, when this happens, you respond that way. When this happens, you say this. When, you know, and thinking, I am that. It's to move us away from that so that we can just kind of ebb and flow with whatever's arising. That's the true wisdom showing itself, manifesting in the world through this phenomena that I call me. And the more I align with that notion of what a self could be or who I am, you know, just a part of this moment expressing in some kind of way, as opposed to having a hard, fixed, fast identity, the more I will be in line with the natural order of things. And the more effortless life becomes, the less we become attached to our views and our opinions, and the less dissatisfaction we'll have, because we can tuck and roll. We can roll with the punches. We can just be present with no axe to grind, no dog in the fight. And how wonderful that feels to just be able to be. And so that's what we're doing this week. Last week, I know you've had some time to practice based on the sutta. And so I'd like to open it up now for any sharing, anything you discovered this week, anything you want to say about your week in light of last week's study. And then I will give you this week's practice.
This is a way for us to be able to evaluate the lifestyle that we say we want to live. We say we want to be harmless and do no harm to anyone. Well, the results of our actions, our words, and our deeds will show us a resultant. We will get an evaluation from life based on the correctness of our actions and our relationship with others, whether it be family or whether it be community or whether it be just CNN. So we no longer are looking for excuses not to do well, but we want to do well, and we want to find out whether we're one of the people who want to do well or not. We don't want to I don't want you to be satisfied with just being in a sangha that tries. But we're talking about being in a sangha, being in a group of participants that are actually walking out their practice in a way that will demonstrate to themselves and others that they do have a contribution to make to the overall walk, the overall practice, the overall intention that we say we want in the world. So we've had demonstrated this week or last week the way some people express themselves and their belief system. And we have to be just as, or we can be just as strong and just as correct in expressing our belief system and demonstrating to ourselves and to others that perhaps they want to follow you as opposed to following someone else who's carrying some other type of banner or effort or ideology. So let's get serious. There's a lot of people out there who don't want us to succeed, who don't want you to succeed, who want you to buy into the same old voodoo. So let's get serious in this practice. And this is all I have to say at this time. Thank you for listening. And I wish you all the best of luck and the best of success in your own individual practice. I want you to be a living example of what it is to be a Buddha or what it is to be a Christ. Thank you.
Okay, so we can open up.
Yeah, we can open up now.
You can unmute yourselves and.
Well, I can offer something.
Yes, Jim.
I surprised myself by how strong a reaction I had to the events at the Capitol, because I've been doing, this kind of work for quite some time now, and it's like I got really down, really depressed, and part of that was feeling a lot of anger and disappointed in myself also, because it felt like I was back to square one. And this took several days for me to get through. And one of the things that I was aware of throughout this process was that there was two insights actually. One was what I was feeling was not at all unlike what the people at the Capitol seemed to be feeling. Different object, but I was full of anger, full of rage, full of hatred for them and for the great instigator. So in some ways, I was no different than the people that were storming the Capitol. The other thing is I became aware of an image of myself. We talk about this, the self that co-arises with all of this stuff. This was visible to me in spades, that there is a certain self-righteousness that goes along with the passing of all these judgments, and it's addictive. There's an aspect of it, even though I'm miserable, there's an aspect of it that feels kind of good. That I know more than these people, I'm smarter than these people, I'm better than these people. And that was a bit daunting to tune into.
So what are you doing now? What are you doing that's different? Or are you doing anything different?
Well, I had a little help from my friend on this one. She said, I think you need to turn off the TV. I'm talking about Judith, of course.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I did different was I stopped feeding this problem with external sourcing, but backing away from the emotions and the thoughts long enough to uh, see what this self was doing, and that it wasn't taking me in a place that I wanted to go, seemed to have allowed the whole thing to ease off. So that's what I really focused on was this um, offended, angry, self-righteous self.
Okay.
But it took a while.
So what you're sharing with us is that you found a truth, an ism in your practice that told you by experience that hate and anger never overcome hate and anger. It just contributes to the anger or the overall anger or the overall hate of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And so, although turning off the TV worked for you, it was good advice for you. It didn't help you see a solution to the real problem, which is the disturbances that you found on the inside, the lack of peace that you found on the inside, based on your reaction to the outside, to the expression of reality. And so the practice tells us that we can either add hate, we can either throw fuel on the fire to cause it to burn hotter, or we can snuff the fire out. We can apply an antidote to what is disturbing my peace by expressing something entirely different. So as opposed to hate, I keep watching TV to ascribe to the experiences love and see whether that reduces my unsatisfactoriness, that this reduces my agitation. And then I see firsthand for myself what works for me. Turning off the TV doesn't work. It just postpones your expressions to the next event. So it's not a solution. That's what I'm telling you. It's not a solution. It delayed the expression of discomfort and disturbance, but it didn't eliminate the reason why you have that experience. So turn the TV back on and practice loving those people instead of hating those people. Loving those people instead of being angry at those people. Love conquers hate. Hate does not conquer hate. Love conquers hate. Love your enemies. Pray for those who despise and persecute you. These are the marching orders that we have as being choosing to be different in the world, choosing to be leaders in the world. And I know you're one of those people who choose to be that. So let's turn the TV back on and let's continue to work on it until your practice diminishes the residual anger that you have inside that you don't necessarily want to deal with right now because the world is going to hell. But just keep loving, because I know how your love feels. I know how your healing energies feel. So don't deprive the rest of us from that just because there's some knuckleheads out there who don't know how to act. Thank you.
One thing that helped me is I started watching Fox News. And I don't know, it's bizarro world. It has nothing to do with reality, but as I watched it, I understood why some people were acting in certain ways, responding in certain ways, and thinking in certain ways because they were taking those that they considered informative and concerned about, you know, their life and their struggles. And I tell you, if I did nothing but watch Fox, I would probably be out there with them, you know, because they have such an ability to turn things around, make a truth seem like a lie seem like the truth. And it's what helped me. At first it didn't. I kept saying, like, people have to be responsible, you know, for their for learning what they need to know. I don't have time to be everybody's teacher. You got to, you know, inform yourself. But as I continued to watch Fox News, I'm like, oh, I started feeling so sorry. And I started feeling such compassion for them. And that was what, you know, helped me. Now I don't continue to watch Fox because I might find myself losing ground and be back in the same situation, but just enough to help me to have more understanding around ignorance and also around fear. Because some of the anger that I felt was around, you know, there's fear arising. The fire department came out the other day on Friday, and they're sitting in the yard and they're taking notes and so forth. And Travis goes up to them and says, "Can I help you?" They says, "No." "Well, you're sitting on my property. Like, say something to me," you know. So they say no. So Travis comes and gets me. He says, "You know, these two guys. They say they're from the fire department. They in a fire truck." He says, "Yeah, they're in a fire vehicle." So I go out and I ask them, "Can I help you?" They say, "No, we're just doing a little pre-planning." I said, "What are you pre-planning for?" You know. And they said, "Well, you know, every once in a while we go out to the businesses in the area." I said, are you here because you try to help a sister out?" I mean, the best way to help me out is let me know what you know, you know, and I'll also help take care of myself. And they said, "Well, no, we were just looking at, you know, exits or if we have to come in, you know, for." So I went out and got. I had people come in and so we chained off the back, you know, you can't get up there. I don't have to worry about you coming up there. So we closed off the back of the property in prudence because if they're concerned, I'm concerned. And we bought it and we got it installed today. Security cameras around. And I haven't wanted security cameras. You know, I'd like people to be able to move freely on land and not feel like somebody's watching them. You know, so I have not wanted security cameras, but I am going to put them up for the next couple of weeks, just out of abundance of caution, because we have a kind of big compound and a lot of, as a matter of fact, just the very next day, as we were coming out front, somebody was walking with me, Sister Sessionist, and there were two people in the car looking in the window, you know, of the front door, and when they saw us come, they're hustling back to their van, their truck, and I said, "Well, can we help you?" He said, "No, we were just wondering what this place is. You know, whether it was open or not, you know," and got in their car and drove off. You know, so we have this all the time. But just like right now, while the temperature is turned up a little bit, you know, you should watch as well as pray. So we can be cautious, but we don't have to be fearful. I'm just saying we can use our intelligence if we don't get yanked off by feelings. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Jim. Would someone else like to share? Nancy. Oh, I think I saw Brian's hand first.
No, Nancy's hand is the yellow in the left box.
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you.
Okay, and then you, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have an uncle who has very different perspectives on, the political environment than I do. And I remember he sends me all these very complex conspiracy videos about what is happening, what has happened, what might happen. And a few weeks ago, I tagged one of those to myself and said, in 3 weeks, follow up and ask him what happened with this, because I know nothing's coming from it. And every time I looked at that tag, I started to get this queasy sensation, which is an uncomfortable feeling, which I ascribe to frustration, not anger, but somewhere between frustration and anger. And after we, talked last week, it occurs to me, you know what, that's what I need to do is change my attitude, not change his perspective. So that's what I've been working on. And now when he posts things that I can support, I go and I like it. And I purposely search out things he says. And they're usually like musical things that he's talked about. As a young man in the 1950s, he was able to schedule the Dave Brubeck quartet for a show that he and the Junior League were putting on in Pennsylvania. And, I had a good conversation. So I wrote with him about what a wonderful thing that was. So I've been looking for ways where I can connect with him at a very compassionate, heartfelt connection, because we had that before he went on this political joint that he went on. So that's what I've been working on. There's other people who I'm not there with yet, but with my uncle, I've been able to change my attitude. I'm not going to go back and ask him what happened with this information you sent me, because I know nothing's appeared from it, because I don't need to poke him with that, right? I just need to change my attitude about where he's at with it. So that's what I've been working on.
Wonderful. In one of the sutras, the Buddha talks about 5 different ways, to change for us to rectify. And one of them is when you're feeling anger or hatred or towards a person, think about some redeeming quality also that that person has, and turn your mind. They're not all bad, turn your mind to that and see how it changes the in the moment way that you feel about them. So changing our own attitude as opposed to trying to change others, going to some other part or way of knowing them. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you. Yes, Nancy.
Good morning. When the Capitol was breached, for me, there was some anger, but it was more just an astounding feeling of helplessness. And the anger came at the disparity between how those in power would have reacted to threats 3 days before or weeks before, if it had been a protest of color instead of white protests, basically. And that was something that made me look at my own white privilege even more. And I realized that whenever I'm really angry, it's underlying fear of different things, whether it's fear of helplessness or fear of loss of something I very much care for. And I tried to realize that their actions and all this anger and violence there was fear underneath, and whether I thought it was justified or not, I let go of it and tried to look at just the fact that they were humans and, countrymen of mine that really were fearful, and their actions were based on that. So I really tried to do metta to calm their fears and try to feel in communion with just that basic human nature, because I want us to unite and fix things and be peaceful and have a democracy that works for everybody. It's very complex. I've tried to do more reading of things that I don't understand because, and like you, Panduwadi, I do switch on and off Fox News at least every couple days for a few minutes and try not to let my blood pressure go up and just listen, because they're definitely getting information in a different way. And I get just as distraught at Joe Scarborough yelling again and again, even if it's a line of reasoning that I understand better. So it's taken a lot of meta practice for me to try and get my vibrations on a level that don't upset my digestive system and make me feel like I'm living on a floor of eggshells. So the practice is very helpful, and I'm very grateful.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Just before you jump in, I want to say that I'm so happy that we have a Sangha where we are developing such a degree of comfort in talking about how things are, because that's the only way that things can change. You have to acknowledge how they are. So when you were talking about looking and knowing, or thinking, well, if this had been a Black Lives Matter movement, they would have been crushed, immediately. They would have been all prepared for them and so forth. And how shocked that another group, a white group, could do this. And, I mean, as a Black, I'm so used to seeing, it's been my whole life, my family's whole life, my parents' whole life, and their parents' whole life. So we have no illusions. We're not shocked and amazed, because we live it on a daily basis. And so it doesn't take us being shocked, amazed, or riled up, because this is our life. But if it's not your life and you think it's not happening here, then you need to see these things. You need to know, what the movement of the country is, because it doesn't touch you otherwise. I mean, if you don't experience it and you don't see it, then you don't know it. Some of us experience it, and some have to see it to be for it to hit home that this actually goes on at this level in this country. I remember I have one Sangha member, and he's been with us for 13 years now, almost since the very beginning. And he came to me one day and said, why don't Black folks stop acting up? Then the police wouldn't have to beat them up all the time and stuff like that. I said, you need to go educate yourself and then come back and talk to me. I couldn't even talk to him at the moment, but he did. 3 weeks later, he came back and said, oh, Panduwadi, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I said that to you. He said, I've been going out. And then and from that day on, that was about 2 years ago, he's almost every week, he's sending me some video, about brutality against Black. I mean, you don't have to send them to me. I know. But he is continually, and he has changed his view about what is real, because he took the time to not hide from it, but to really inform himself. And so that's what it's going to take. We have to be able to have the real dialogue and it not be a suspect dialogue. And when that happens, so I honestly am sorry what happened. It's unfortunate that it happened. in one sense. But for those of us who know that level of animosity is present, unless more of us know that, not much is going to be done. So that's how I have accepted the moment. I accept cause and condition, whichever way it comes. And because of that, I have not lost, a bit of sleep. You can do what you need to do what you need to do to create the best possible safety measures for yourself or whatever, but you still don't have to go around in fear or in disgust or in great sadness. But knowing brings that kind of relief, and knowing brings that kind of release. Yes.
So I think it was Alex.
Alex.
And then Joshua.
This is good work.
Hi, everybody. So
A little more volume, Alex.
more volume?
Yeah, from your side.
Okay. All right, I'll just talk loud. Is that better?
Not so much. You sound far away from your
Okay.
device.
See, maybe there's something technically on my side. Let me hold off then.
Okay, maybe try connecting to audio again. Joshua, if you don't mind, we'll get Alex's sound.
Hello, everyone. I just want to, first of all, say thank you so much for the Dharma sessions, because we had a wonderful discussion right before the election that really touched me. And one of the subjects was that it's important to be an observer of the world and to not necessarily have any sort of emotional a dog in the fight, so to speak, connection to a need for a certain outcome of the election. That really helped me through that time period, and is helping me now as well, because as we're talking about what happened at the Capitol, it has really helped me to, I just moved here about 10 months ago from Germany. So one word that we have in German that really helps is called Abstand. And that's the different distance you have to the other thing or the other person in front of you. And I think of that a lot, that when things like this happen that are so dramatic, that I need a little bit more of this Abstand, a little bit more distance, because only in getting that distance and in my perception of it can I really see it in its full perspective. So that's just came to mind as something that may be helpful. The other thing that I was thinking about was the anger and discomfort that we feel inside of ourselves is usually a sign pointing us. And when I feel it inside of myself, I feel, there's something there, something has happened, and I need to address what it is that I'm feeling inside of myself. So in a lot of ways, discomfort or anger can be very helpful. In some way, anger seems to be a sort of, it's sort of seems to be, especially as I feel as a man, in place of some other emotion that I'm uncomfortable with expressing. So anger seems to be the go-to for a lot of people, but is actually just covering up something else. And those people as well at the Capitol were feeling a lot of anger, but as was mentioned here, that was covering up something like fear. And the other thing I thought of was, when you see someone doing bad things, or acting out or acting up, and I whenever it came to the people of the Capitol, I kept reminding myself, there is no the other. I look at them, and the way we speak of them, we say them and they, and it's always the other. And there isn't one. They're me. We are all made of the same stuff. And that really, really helps me to inspire compassion within myself for all people who may be harder to love, that's totally true, or may need more grace, so to speak. But in their minds, they are doing something heroic. And they are, because of watching Fox and being led down the wrong path, or however one wants to put it. And that's jarring, of course, but in the same way that I try to inspire compassion within myself for the prisoner or for a murderer, or those things exist within myself, those same possibilities to act so horribly out on something, they are not different than me. They are the same as me. I just wanted to put that out into the discussion, because I find it so helpful to inspire empathy within myself when I don't think of myself as better than, I think of myself as the same as. Just mentioning that. Thank you for listening.
And as being part of the privileged community, it's easy for us to think of ourselves as better than, and our come downance, if I'm too high, please bring me down. Our come downance is thinking of others, equally with us. If you're not part of a privileged community, then there's a kind of comeuppance that needs. So we have to also recognize where we are in a relative sense, in tandem, in tandem to each other. So where we might be thinking, some people are thinking they're doing something really heroic. There are others that we know without a doubt feel like whatever I can take from you, I have more for myself. And that's just the way they think. It's yesterday, today, what was the I'm gonna say it. Oh, right. What's his name though? Yeah, like George Wallace, segregation, yesterday, segregation today, segregation forever. But once that bullet struck his spine and he had a come downance, then he began to see another way of life and understanding life from the aspect of one who is not at the highest position, and there was a change in his view. And so sometimes our life, the privileges in our life cause us to have a certain view. Even as a Westerner, an American, I have a certain privilege that when I'm in other places, like developing countries, we used to call them third world nations. We didn't include them in our world, but like in developing countries, I can clearly see, my privilege. And so I try to stay cognizant of that all the time. So we make excuses, maybe allowances, I'll use that word, for others, but not for ourselves. That's part of our practice, and how wonderful a practice it is, when we can see it, when Jim was talking about our self-righteousness and how addictive it is too. So I know here, anybody can give a Dharma talk, but if you give a Dharma talk here, you got to be living Dharma, not just give a good talk. You got to be living it in order to give talks. And so the living of it is the most important thing. We're always thinking. He says we can get caught up and go in a wrong direction about thinking, even like what we're doing right now. That's why I'm liking it that we're making observations about our own patterns, because that's where we're trying to lead you, and dismantling them. And today we'd like to take you into a deeper way of doing this. And I think our time is getting away from us, is it? So I need to, what time is it? Oh yeah,
Okay. So this is this week's, and you all have it. It will go in your box, and can we put it on the screen too? And what you will work on this week.
If you didn't have a chance to share, you can also just type it in the chat there for us as we're sharing the screen. That way we can hear your voice. If something you'd like to share, just put it in the chat.
Okay, and if you all can't see it, I'm gonna read it. This is called intentional. Our practice for this week. Last week it was observing, right? So observing where we might need a little work right here, a little work right there. This week it's intentional responsiveness. How you play your hand determines the outcome of the game. You know, like I play cards to keep my mind sharp, to kind of remember which ones fell, which ones I haven't seen in the game. And sometimes I always play against the computer. So I have two on the other team or opponents, and I have a partner, and they're all computer. So when the computer partner plays what I call the wrong card, not the card I expected to fall, in the beginning I would say, oh shoot, you know, or I would be a little irritated that he didn't have the card that I was looking for, was trying to flesh out, you know, to fall. And I noticed that tendency to be irritated and upset because, I mean, it's a game of chance, but yet I would get irritated and upset when the card I want was trying to flesh out didn't come up and didn't fall. And I've noticed it but every time I noticed it, I mentioned it to myself. I mean, well, after all, this is a game of chance. After all, you know, and then I noticed when I played the wrong card, like sometimes my finger touched the wrong card on the phone and the wrong card went out. But I gave myself a little bit more grace. Oh shoot, my finger hit the wrong card, or you know, I wasn't quite as upset with myself as I was when my partner played out of his hand from what he had, you know. And so I began to notice that tendency to for there to be a plausible reason or how I was thinking about how the cards could fall for me, that I didn't allow him, and he was my partner. So first I worked on not being upset when my partner didn't play his hand the way I thought he should play his hand. And then I started not being upset with my opponent when they won the hand. And little by little, now I just really enjoy it. And I'm really fastened now on the reason I said I was playing the cards, you know, to improve my memory, to know which numbers had already fallen, things like that. And now it has really become a tool that helps me with my memory, where before it was something that was just feeding my habitual tendencies. I love it because my master says all worldly Dharma is Buddha Dharma. It depends on whether you're looking through the Buddha eyes. So now we're going to talk of intentional responsiveness. The Buddha said that our actions are our only true home. So now this week, I'd like for you to note when you have applied these 6 R's to a situation and try to come equipped with a particular situation. And I'm using I don't know what you call it when it's like active verb, like recognizing as opposed to recognize. Like recognizing in this moment, in this situation, what is pushing my button? What specifically? Because we can say it's what you said, but it's not what you said. It's really how I felt when you said what you said. Or maybe it really was how you said something in a very disrespectful way, and that pushed my button. And maybe what was said was okay to say, you know, but how it was said, or maybe, you know how sometimes you say something like, I can say this, but you can't say it. So
just looking and knowing what has vamped you up. What is it that you are really reacting to? It might be just a trigger because that's something that my father used to always say to me, and I really heard my father's voice in that moment. So recognizing what is pushing your button in this moment, in this particular situation. The second is recollecting the downside and the past disadvantages of returning harm for harm, tit for tat, and the past or possible advantages of restraint. What if I say nothing right now and come back at a time when he could actually hear what I want to say to him? Because right now he's not open to hearing anything. Or like right now, I'm not open to hearing anything. So there's no point in me saying something because I will not hear their response. Recollecting the downside and past disadvantages when I was in the same situation and I did that. How did that work out for me? Not so good. Or how did that work out for me? It worked to my advantage, or it worked to promote harmony, or we were able to step back, or we were able to stop ourselves and go in a different direction. As Brian was saying, what could I say to him around something else where we can have harmonious conversation and remember what we know about each other. The third is refraining, and this is all around particular situations, so don't jump all over. In that situation, I was refraining, and over there, I was restraining, and over there, all of these actions around one encounter. The third is refraining. That means not just recollecting the downside, but definitely holding back your desired habitual negative response. Because we have them and we usually don't think we know we have them, but if we get still enough, we know we have them. So how to refrain, definitely holding back what I want to do in this situation, what I want to say. I know it's unwholesome, but like it's charging out of me. Definitely holding that back, refraining from. The next one is relinquishing, accepting the fact that you feel like responding in a certain way, but choosing to surrender that habitual response, seeing the danger in it. So not just saying like, well, then change your feelings about it. No, but recognizing that it is a feeling. Feelings come, feelings go, acknowledging that feeling is there, but I don't have to act on it. I choose to surrender my habitual response, and not just choosing it, but actually seeing the danger in it. Because more we see the danger in our habitual response, the less affinity we will have towards that kind of response. So this is breaking an affinity. There's a saying that misery loves company. So sometimes, we're miserable because that's the only companion we've had. And having to even give up that companion, I'd rather have none than have misery as my companion, or than to have fear as my companion. So sometimes we have to separate from close companions who have been there when nothing else was there. Reconditioning, recalling or reviewing how you are letting go of the unwholesome pattern and choosing a more appropriate, intelligent, conscious response. So reconditioning is like recalling and reviewing what you are doing in this moment so that we can recognize how we let go. we recognize the steps involved. And some things are easier than others to let go of. But when we understand the pattern of how we let go, then we can apply it to the hard decisions that we're making. The one where conceit, where self is saying, no, 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 this is my opinion, I'm sticking with it because I think this is right. It says so right here in the Buddha's teachings, but if we can recognize how we're letting go of an unwholesome pattern and deliberately choosing a way that those who are wise have suggested we investigate, go in that direction and see what happens. So you don't know. Sometimes when you do quote the right thing, quote the quote wrong thing seems to happen to you. So maybe sometimes we suffer a loss doing the right thing. So then is it really suffering a loss? What defines loss for me? We have to take it to these deeper levels. Sometimes I give up something I want that is good for me, right for me. I should have, just as in Sutta 128, the Buddha said, how do you blend like milk and water in your community? He says, well, we think this way. Why should I do what I want to do? Why not do what my other friends in the holy life want to do? And so, because it is a great boon to be in association with them, to have them in my life. If you think this way, you'll give up some things that you want to do, to go with the group, to do what they're doing, to be with them. But if you're thinking only of oneself, a selfishness that one might call even a righteousness, he's letting you know you kind of missed the point. You got it part right, but part not right. This is how we go deeper. Deeper is not more, deeper is deeper into the reality of things and the complexities of things. And we can come to know in every situation through experience what is the most expedient thing to do. And we can have a clearer conscience when we walk in that. And then the last one of the 6 R's is rejoicing. Resting in the momentary direct knowledge that you have realized about positive response and the ability to change or transform, I could say, feeling or not be controlled by it. So sometimes I'll do something and I say, oh boy, this is gonna hurt. Nevertheless, I will do it anyway because I know that it is the most advantageous thing, even though I'm gonna have to go through something before there is the good fruit of this manifesting. Or sometimes, and then really rejoicing in that moment. And then we'll get in a habit of rejoicing in good as opposed to rejoicing when we are feeling good. So those are it: recognizing, recollecting, refraining, relinquishing, reconditioning or recalling and reviewing, and finally rejoicing. Because joy is our strength. Joy is what makes us get up and go again and again and again, seeing the bigger picture, the bigger benefit, the benefit for all. It's what we arrive at when we get out of our selfing. And the best way to get out of your selfing is to concentrate on others. It's about the greatest way that we can penetrate to emptiness. It's very difficult to penetrate to emptiness when we're so stuck on our attainment. But attainment arrives in the state of non-self. So that's our work for next week. When we come in for next week, we started last week and we broke into groups and we didn't get a chance to listen. This week we've shared. Next week we'll break into our groups while we discuss our 6 R's, and maybe we'll alternate this way so that we can hear outside of the group and we can have a chance within a group of 3 or 4 people, you know, in case you don't feel as comfortable speaking out into a whole group. Know that you won't be in the same group every week because we like to keep it mixed up. So one becomes not so much aware of their self, but just in openly, honestly sharing. And this was really, really, really good today. I thank you all for your practice, for your effort, your desire to attain, and for putting into practice what we already know, and for just, for you all being in our life. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel I'd have any other reason to be here, to be alive at this point in my life, except in my relationship with you. So, thank you. Anybody want to say something in this room? Okay, so next week, the room said they get fursies because they didn't get a chance to say anything.
Alex and there's one more.
Okay.
Alex and somebody too. Sorry. It was Alex and
Oh, Alex,
Josh did share, but Alex was waiting. And
Alex.
One more person.
but we had called on Alex. Do we
Yeah,
have
we did call
2
on
more
Alex.
minutes so that Alex couldn't get her audio?
Yes.
His audio, and someone to give him a chance to get that. Alex, I didn't see that. He stepped away.
Hi,
everybody.
Okay.
Is that better?
It's better, yes.
Okay, great. Because I dialed in on my phone and technical issues, and then I just posted what I was going to say in the chat. So I mean, people can read it, or I can read it. I don't know.
Share with us, Alex.
More. Okay.
You can't see in the room, so if you could share with us, that would be great.
Oh, okay. All right. So what I noticed myself doing differently this week is making, making an effort to neither justify or ignore how I contribute to a subtly unhealthy relationship with my friend Brian, who I've known literally my entire life. Our dads had been close friends since the 50s, and Brian and I were born a week apart. We went to school together until we finished high school, and we're still friends. Brian's an ardent Trump supporter, and I'm a Democratic political organizer. At least that's one of the hats I wear. And never once in the last 5 years have we talked about Donald Trump. And so, right, like what I'm doing differently is not easily justifying why I haven't tried to talk to Brian, who's not a persuadable voter, right? Like that's my habit energy. If you're not persuadable, then I'm not going to talk to you. Got to get to the next person who's persuadable. I could also easily minimize the significance of neither of us being our authentic selves when we hang out. We have a lot more to talk about than just, sports and what's going on with the other folks we grew up with. So yeah, what I'm doing differently is I'm sitting and holding space for how I've been, averse to asking for a conversation with Brian, or in denial about it, right? And the other thing I shared is that, my training regimen of meditation has taught me to notice and discern between, what's painful and maybe injury inducing and what's discomfort. I can do, multiple day meditation retreat using the same position. I can't do like a long meditation retreat just using the same position, kneeling on the floor. Like sometimes I got to sit in a chair. Sometimes I got to lay on the floor if I want to, complete whatever it was I entered that retreat to do. So now I'm just kind of utilizing discernment to ask what changes I need to make in the way I hold myself in order to have, a genuine dialogue with Brian. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Alex. Hope to see you soon.
Okay.
That's what we're after, genuine dialogue, right? With ourselves and with others. Mhm. All right, we will send out, Sister suggested that I send out the night before what we're gonna talk about the next day, for the next week.
Or even 2 or 3 nights before.
Or she says 2 or 3 nights before. Okay, so I think I can do that. I just don't like you to be programmed. That's the whole thing. I don't like you to
I'll
be
keep it and
programmed.
I'll send it to them the night before. You
Okay,
get it to me 3 days before. I'll send it to them the night.
okay, so I understand why we don't do those things, because I don't want canned responses, prepared messages, I don't want to not give you time to think about it. You just have to say what's going up. And I think it's a good way to always be instant in season. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.